this year's Sands Unified School District Board of Education, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by our new student member, Brody Zaid. Brody?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes? No changes. We will move to approval of minutes. If there are no changes, minutes will be accepted as presented. And it will bring us to item 5, reports and communication. We will start with our student members report. Brody.
From Murray Middle School, thanks to the amazing standing room only for our 6th grade parent orientation on August 7th, 2023. We had PTSO, staff, and volunteers help us disseminate information like links and access to Parent Square in the first day packets during advisory. All of those things contributed to the first week's success. ASB had spirit days, a water balloon class competition on Friday, and made sure new students got treats for engaging in the school culture positively. Advisory classes reviewed school-wide expectations for students, new and returning, and our wonderful staff has been out in full to ensure students are safe and supported. Our first Late Start Wednesday is this week on August 16th. Teachers will be meeting before school to continue our Centegex training, and students will go to class at 8 a.m. with the warning bell at 7:55 a.m. We have Picture Day this Wednesday as they take their photos during PE. Cross country welcome runners, and we'll be bringing on new members on the 14th with Monroe joining us as well. Volleyball will be announcing our new coach and getting ready for our fall season. Good luck, Mustangs. From Monroe Middle School, the 2023-2024 school year roared into view last week. The Tigers came ready to learn and show their teachers how excited they are to be back. The first day, the gates opened to the green carpet, balloons, music, and lots of fanfare. With the festive welcome back, we got right down to work. Teachers started with their social contracts and classes this week, daily check-ins each day in advisory, and establishing the expectations we want the Tigers to rise to meet. Our first spirit day is this Friday, Where's Waldo? And volleyball tryouts and cross-country practice start this week. Looking forward to back to school night on August 22nd. Campus beautification and the first dance are just a few weeks away. The Tigers are on the rise this year. From Mesquite, new students and their families participated in orientation back on the 2nd, and students share their enjoyment of the first week of school with smiles and handshakes. They are already making measurable academic progress. Our Dragons have several events to look forward to, including Picture Day last Tuesday and Back to School Night next week. During Back to School Night, students and their families will get to enjoy burgers and outside games. Parents will get the opportunity to meet teachers, explore classroom routines, and see the campus. The 3-week credit cycle is fast, but helps students evaluate their progress. The first check ends next week on Friday, so students get to look at their progress the following week to ensure they are on track. Go Dragons, show them how to soar. And from Burroughs High School. Burroughs has started off the 2023-2024 school year strong, with freshman orientation being held on August 2nd, led by the always great Link crew. Orientation went well with great attendance and participation from the incoming class of 2027. Link crew worked during the summer on training and making posters to display in the gym during orientation. The first day of school went well, with the ASB taking their photos and being in class for the first time of the year, working to get school events together and run business meetings, and the Blockbuster staff taking candid photos around campus for our first day assignment. Chromebooks were handed out on the first 2 days, while lockers continued to be distributed last week. Last Friday, the first spirit day of the year, Aloha, My Name Is, went well with lots of students participating. On the same day was the kickback, where students were able to play fun yard games on the football field, purchase shaved ice, and meet up with friends. The fall sports have begun practices and will begin games in the upcoming weeks. Volleyball, girls tennis, football, and cross country are wished a good year by the ASB and the whole of the school. BHS Drama has begun auditions for the fall play this week. Mrs. Poole said she expects the auditions to be filled and that students will learn the joy of theater. All class assemblies began on the 10th and continued through the 15th of this month. The assemblies had each grade level receive information of school rules, important events, class officers, and prominent staff on campus. Back to School Night will be held on August 23rd, allowing parents to meet their students, teachers, and learn more about the school. School photos have begun today and will continue tomorrow. Burroughs has come back great, and we hope to have a positive school year.
Thank you, Brody. You are certainly welcome and encouraged to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like and participate. But if you have other things to prepare for school, we certainly understand. So we'll let you make that call, all right? We move on to items for reports for members of the board. Mike?
I'd like to report on August 2nd, 2023, the Ridgecrest City Council approved a contract to employ me as the interim chief of police, as the permanent chief of police is currently out on a temporary leave of absence. I will start in that position on Monday, August 21st, 2023. This contract automatically terminates upon the current chief's return from leave. As a retired annuitant through the CalPERS retirement system, I am only allowed to work a maximum of 960 hours in this position. Although the Ridgecrest Police Department and Sierra Sands Unified School District have executed a contract related to the school resource officers each school year for the past 15 years, I will not be participating in the contract for the 23-24 school year in any way, including voting on the contract or communicating with any of the board members related to the contract to avoid any contracts or the appearance of any conflicts. In order to eliminate the possibility of any conflict between the two entities, Captain Tucker will serve as the liaison between the two agencies and handle any and all issues or concerns. If any issue or concern arises that needs to be elevated or handled above the captain level, Captain Tucker has been given direct reporting authority to the city manager to ensure I am not involved in the process. I will not supervise Captain Tucker or provide any guidance to him in any matters related to the school resource officers. Rather, the city manager will be responsible for performing those duties. I have also signed a memo from the city manager instructing me on this process. My contract further expands on this by stating, employee shall not engage in any business or transaction or maintain a financial interest which conflicts or reasonably might be expected to conflict with the proper discharge of employee's duties under this agreement. Employee shall comply with all requirements of law, including but not limited to Section 1090, 1125, and 87,100 of the Government Code, and all other similar statutory and administrative rules. I'm committed to strict compliance with this and all other parts of my contract related to my position as the interim chief of police.
Thank you. Anybody else have board comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, President Ferris. And I wanted to say welcome to student board member Brody Zaid. I had the opportunity to meet with Brody in preparation for this meeting, and I'm excited to have him join us and share important perspectives representing students of Sierra Sands Unified School District. I'd also like to thank ASB advisor Laura Larson for her leadership and support of our students in the student board member position. Attendance report, we do not have our first month of attendance formalized yet, so this is the one meeting that I don't have that, but our student information system reports show record numbers of students enrolled in and attending our schools. We greatly appreciate our partnership with our teachers, counselors, and all support staff who have been flexible as we seek to balance classes and ensure each student has an excellent environment in which to learn. As Brody mentioned, school has started August 7th we had the all hands meeting, I should say, and we wanted to thank our local Starbucks for the donation of coffee for all staff members. School opened August 8th, and I had the opportunity to attend back to school nights this week at Gateway, Pierce, and Las Flores. Several board members in attendance with me, thank you for that, and I look forward to the remainder of them next week. We also have implemented new safety protocols. Brody mentioned that. I'm wearing my badge, so we have our ID, so we can easily identify the adults on campuses, and behind it we have our security tabs, Centegics, that go with our new security protocols, and we'll be sharing more about that and getting information out to families in the near future if they haven't already received them. So we're very pleased to see the rollout, and folks have been very open to that. And since the last board meeting, I have had a chance to meet with a variety of elected officials, including Assemblyman Vince Fong, Representative for Supervisor Philip Peters, Cody Criswell, and our Ridgecrest Mayor, as well as other local leaders. So I'm continuing that tour. And a couple of things I'm looking forward to include this weekend. There's a free concert that highlights our music teachers tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the Ridgecrest United Methodist Church, titled "And This Is Why I Teach." So as you know, we have a thriving music program that's really growing this year, and it's a great opportunity for the community to get to know the staff who are leading that. And our first varsity home football game of the year is August 25th. So we're looking forward to many things. I've set a goal of walking classrooms at each school each month. And it's not every single classroom at each school, but getting to all the schools, getting in classrooms each month. And welcome you to join me as board members. I'll be sharing those dates with you in case one or two board members would like to sign up for different ones. It's great to see the instruction taking place in our classrooms. And then finally, just wanted to share a note, and we'll send information out to our families as we are watching the weather reports and actively planning for potential inclement weather over the weekend and into early next week. We're partnering with the city and county just to make sure we're aware of everything that's going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to item 4, report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association.
Good evening. I kept saying good morning out there. I wasn't on campus today. I had to take care of some personal stuff, and I think I don't realize I'm awake. So good evening, Superintendent Dr. Moore, President Ferris, members of the board and community. I can't believe we're here. Second week. I want to say that we had PD, right? And we began our year with 2 of the 3 days of PE. And it's kind of, if you look anywhere in social media, there's a lot of memes about teachers making fun of our PD. But I have to say that this year we started with the Capturing Kids' Hearts. And I remember when Dr. Ostash presented it to me, and there was a lot going on. I'm like, I don't know, I guess sounds okay. It was really fabulous. And I have to say, it feels a little weird to say that, but it was really good PD. And it was not curriculum.
Could I interrupt you just a second? For those people that might not know what PD means.
PD, professional development.
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's all right.
professional development. And there, are the reason a lot of teachers don't like it is that it's not really relevant to what we do. And this was focused on the social emotional learning. And in the past, we've had stuff where, we all understand there are time constraints and there's only so much you can do. But this was actually 2 days where we were able to get into it. And the worst comment I heard was, it was good. And then, which is often the best comment. But I know up at Burroughs, it was just really fabulous. And it was nice to see, it was a relief to see this is what we wanted and this is what we had. And we're all very happy with it. So we'll see. We went in positive, and so far things are good. But I did want to say overall that was a success. We've had a few issues. The school year started, so we've had some issues. We're still negotiating, but at this point, we're looking forward to a good year working with a new superintendent, and I don't have anything funny, and I'm really disappointed in myself. But I'll be back next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. And I appreciate the feedback on the professional development. I had heard similar comments from individuals, and I was hopeful that was generally the case, and it sounds like it is. So it's nice when you hit one correctly, right? Thank you for that. That brings us to report to the board by trustees of the California School Employees Association.
Hello, School Board President, board members, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff, and community. Don't mind my voice. I coach cheer for IWV, and I just got out of practice. I would like to welcome back everyone for another school year. Hope everyone had a great summer. As we start another school year, I need to address the fact that we have so many classified jobs that are not filled. Why is that? You may ask. Most likely, our pay scale. We have had to outsource paras to start out the new school year in order to stay in compliance, which, as you can understand, has frustrated some of our dedicated paras, as these outsourced paras are being paid at a higher rate than some of our paras who have been working for the district for more than several years. A big complaint that I have heard are these paras that are being brought in are not trained like our paras are. We have also had to outsource busing for out-of-town trips due to the lack of drivers in the district. Now, I know we have made some improvements on our pay scale, and we understand that it cannot be fixed overnight. We hope to continue to make progress on it, as that is probably the only way we will be able to retain our dedicated employees and entice new employees to want to come and work for the district. However, when we have local fast food restaurants advertising higher starting wages than the district, we will continue to struggle to fill these positions. I was able to sit down and chat with Dr. Moore last week, and we had a great conversation. I expressed to her that our pay scale has seen some improvement over the last few years, but that we need to continue working on it, as some of our classifications are being paid at a significantly lower pay than others in the same job in districts that are comparable to ours. I hope that we can continue to work together to make improvements on our pay scale in order to retain our employees and entice new and qualified employees to come and work for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any item that is not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, but if appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time of public comment to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting. I now open public comment.
My name is Kathy McCoy. I'm a teacher at Pierce. I wanted to reiterate what Eileen said about PD. Pierce happened to have a little different PD. We had members from ASSUSD come and work with us, but it is the first time that I have gone to PD on the second day saying I'm really excited to be here. And I have heard that throughout the district as well. We have been asking for SEL for so long for some help with that, and it has made such a difference. We are so happy that we finally got it. We felt like we were a really cohesive staff. We felt like everybody was on the same page. We all had the same plan, and I think that it just really contributed to a great first week and a half of school. So I just want to say thank you for giving us the PD that we asked for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tristan Kratz. I'm a teacher at Burroughs High School. Do we not have to say our address anymore?
Correct.
Nice.
Are you disappointed?
No, I was just going to say 500 East French Avenue because that's really where I live. I also want to chime in. I told Eileen it's funny. I was going to come and thank the board also for our professional development. I've been going to a lot of professional developments and been very frustrated because it didn't seem like anything that I, with my curriculum, was able to implement. And this time, not only do I feel like I was more empowered as a teacher, but what I saw happen at Burroughs High School was seeing a staff that's been very fractured because we're just busy or we're just not in the same department, but seeing people that are from very diverse backgrounds coming together and for the first time really feeling like a staff and learning how to support each other, and that was crucial. And for the first 2 weeks in my class, because we are doing one good thing every day, my students are now saying, you know, Kratz, it was kind of weird, but it's getting nicer here. So well done. So thank you. However, I do want to address a concern that I'm hearing. I mean, I work at the high school, but I'm hearing a lot of concerns about the class sizes at our middle schools, especially in PE. And so when I heard Dr. Moore say that we want to make sure that we have a safe learning environment for all of our students and that our staff feels safe teaching, I think we have a real issue here. And as a middle school, that's like if we don't take care of the middle school, we're collapsing from the center, which means it's going to hurt the elementaries and it's definitely going to hurt the high school. So I would really hope that the board listen to the negotiation team, come to a solution to support these teachers and our students, because it is not healthy, it's not functioning, and it's hurting, and I'm terrified of that implosion from the inside. So with the positive place that we've started, can we please put some kind of infrastructure to really support our middle schools? And with that, have a really good rest of your night.
Thank you.
My name is Jesse Clayson, and I'm one of the school nurses for the district. I want to just take a moment and thank our SELPA directors and the Director of Student Services and the board for supporting the health of the students, for providing us the personnel and the resources so that we can do the best job we can taking care of the health of the students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, you all. Chad Hauk. I'm here tonight as a parent and a future past employee, past board member. Dropped our oldest daughter off at college 2 days ago. She asked, and she was kind of disappointed that she didn't get a chance to come back to you all for a third time. She did something I think is unique in my time here, that students on their own coming and addressing the board about concerns they have. I remember as an assistant principal, I always encourage students to try and do that. This is the public forum, be a part of the government. So when my daughter did that years ago, 3 of you all may remember, she came up here and said, please accept my college credits towards graduation. And a year later, the board changed the policy. And just this past year, bringing on the CCAP, I want to thank you personally, but she asked me if I could come in her stead and share kind of the end of her story and say thank you once more, as she just started at her university as a junior instead of a sophomore. She's actually a year ahead of her peers because of being able to take advantage of what we did with dual enrollment. And her final thought was, she's got 5 more siblings that are coming through, so please continue with that work so that they can benefit from it as well. I had one other thing that I wanted to speak to that's more of the past board member aspect. As I've been reading all of the packets since I left the group, and I found I kind of missed this, one of the things that I always looked at was item 13, the consent agenda. And oftentimes we just blaze through that. Before we even finish the thing, it's move the entire consent agenda. And in there is where we hire people. And we also say goodbye to people. Over the years of being in Ridgecrest, there are people that have left Sierra Sands, both positive and negatively. And I know we need employees. I talked about it during the school board race. That's one of the key things, and it came up tonight. We need more people. At the same time, I think that this group has a responsibility to not always just blaze through that consent agenda. And it could be an important thing that when we're bringing people back that left us in the past, that there's at least a conversation that happens before we just bring them all right back. There's a reason sometimes that people left, and that's a tough thing when we're missing. We need people, and that doesn't mean that we don't bring them back. Just, let's not just blaze through the consent agenda every time. That was something that I've been watching and I've been thinking about often, and I wanted to share that. But most importantly, I wanted to speak on behalf of my daughter and say thank you once again, to add to the thanks that everybody else brought tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadine Steichen, and I guess I also live part of the time at Burroughs High School. I didn't write anything down tonight. I brought some broad goals with you to share, and I hear positive messages coming from people, and I want to say that I also want to recognize the challenges that we have. And I want to thank you for your service over a period of years, the faces that we've seen at this table, and then the new faces that are here. I think some of the challenges that we have cannot be solved in one cycle of negotiations or in one decision that's made. And so the thing that I did try to do to bring with me tonight was a diagram regarding listening and how important that is to making progress. And so I couldn't find the diagram, but basically it was a cycle of decision making that keeps returning back to listening. And listening to those teachers, those young teachers who are trying to make decisions about what they're gonna do with their careers, and can they manage to stay in a position over a period of years when their frustration level is high and the challenges are kind of swirling around them. So that concept of listening and returning to listening and going in when you know the answers aren't always going to be happy and there's not always going to be a smiley face there, and trying to figure out how we can help these people. So the 4 broad goals that I would just emphasize that I think we share are communication, keeping communication going, a common sense approach to assessments, retention of staff, and equity. Equity in our district, unified district, it's hard to manage. What we're finding is common terminology is a challenge. We have different schools that are calling things different, and we have to try to figure out, are we serving our people well? Are we providing situations that are equitable? So I think that's a goal that we're looking at. But I would maybe emphasize something that Tristan emphasized, and that is a little bit of focus on the middle can benefit us all. The challenges that we hear coming out of the middle schools are not small, and part of it is we want to support our teachers and encourage them to stay, but how can we truly make progress that takes sometimes a period of years to achieve? And so I hope that we're continuing to work together in that area. Some of us won't be here as long as others, but I know I thank you for your service, and I hope that we can see progress going forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Reyes, and I didn't prepare a speech either, so I'm just going to try to do this. Anyways, I'm a paraprofessional. I work for James Monroe, and I work with the special needs children. And, you know, we perform a lot of, we initiate the care for these children. You know, I know the teachers, they make 3 times as much as we do. I understand that because they have the credentials. But they're not putting in the performing the tasks that we do with these children. We're changing them, we're feeding them, and you know, we get up and we're there at the school. Say if one day we decided not to show up, the school and the district would suffer. But as a paraprofessional who comes in, I love our students. I enjoy working for the district, but I think the big picture here is we're underpaid for what we do. So with that said, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else at the mic, we will close public comment, and we will move to item 6, educational administration. Item 1, approval of the 23-24 consolidated application for funding. Ms. Decker.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. Each year, the district applies for state and federal funding, and this year we are requesting about $2.2 million in funding, and it is recommended that the board approve the 23-24 consolidated application for submission to the California Department of Ed.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Move to item 2, approval of safety supplies for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program and After-School Education and Safety Program for the 2023-24 school year. Ms. Decker again.
The after-school programs are purchasing safety equipment in case of an emergency. The supplies will be funded through the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of safety supplies.
Move the recommended action.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor? Pardon? Someone?
I got a question, but I gotta go to the mic.
You're well trained. Thank you very much.
I'm getting there. Take advantage of it. I have a question. I mean, I know this might seem obvious to some, but what is safety equipment? What is it that we're paying for? What are we doing?
I can tell you.
Thank you.
They are purchasing first aid backpacks. They are purchasing CPR response kits, bleed response kits, AED pads, because they all have AEDs in the sites, and also the inspection of the AEDs. You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions by members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 3, approval of adoption of revisions to the 2023-24 Local Control Accountability Plan. Ms. Savko, Dr. Savko, excuse me.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff, and community. On June 27th, 2023, the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Trustees approved the 23-24 Local Control Accountability Plan and submitted it to the Kern County Superintendent of Schools for review and approval. The KCSOS Fiscal Services advised the district to revise the LCAP to include the 22-23 supplemental and concentration carryover into the 23-24 actions, which contribute to the increase and improvement of services for unduplicated pupils, otherwise known as foster youth, English learners, and low income, in order to increase the minimum proportionality percentage, or MPP, to meet the required 14.55%. It's recommended that the revised 23-24 LCAP be approved and adopted as presented and submitted to KCSOS for review and approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Move to item 4, approval of contract with Ashton Speech Therapy Services. Mr. Delbeck.
President Ferris, Dr. Moore, members of the board and community, welcome. Thank you guys all for being here, and it seems like it's a very positive meeting today, so it's good. This is a contract for a speech and language pathologist. Her name is Carrie Ashton with Ashton Speech and Teletherapy Services. A lot of experience. She has over 25 years experience. It is virtual, but she is extremely well, she has lots of experience working in schools and clinical. So this is the financial implications. Cost for one speech therapist will not exceed $167,000. It is recommended that the board approve the contract with Ashton Speech Service Therapy Services for the 23-24 school year.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, it's a telespeech, so has she started already working with it?
She has. We've had everyone kind of start even before we had the board. They've all agreed to do that. So, I mean, if we didn't approve her. But yeah, she started August 8th.
Okay, great.
Any other questions from board members? Questions from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 5, approval of contract with the Wellness Project LLC for an additional virtual psychologist. Mr. Delbeck.
And according to state and federal regulations, school district are required to assess students, and this is going to be our 5th full-time school psychologist, which is going to put us in a very good position. We have already in a position where we're making up, let's say, some eligibility reviews that haven't been done, and we're going to be in a position, at least I'm forecasting by December, to be current, to where parents aren't behind, and that's something that's not happening in a lot of school districts in California, and a lot of that has been because of you guys have helped us get as much help as we need. It's a hard thing to keep because we get quite a few requests, and we want to make sure that we identify those students that need services. So this will help us out. This is a virtual psychologist who has this year we have a crew of psychologists and speech and language pathologists that we feel are as good as I've been here in the 4 years. So I'm very happy, and we have a system to ensure services are given, which we didn't, that we're finally implementing with having a coordinator and a few other things. So, and this all gets to our students. They're going to get services they need, and we're happy about it. So this is recommended that the board approve the contract with a wellness project for one more school psychologist for the 23-24 school year.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah, so I was looking back on last month's notes, and through the actions we took last month, on the previous item, we brought in, not as organically as we'd like, a lot of contract help, but that's okay to get us where we need to be. But we had last month we brought on 6 speech and language pathologists. Tonight we just brought on another one, so we're close to the 8 that you say is our fully staffed level. Last month we brought in 3 school psychologists, and we're bringing in 1 more now, but you said we needed 5, or you said that brought us to 5. Where did the other one come from?
The next item is 1 school psychologist and 1 SLP, so I apologize for that. But yes, we are getting to under 1,000 students per school psychologist. California Association of School Psychologists recommends anywhere between 750 and 1,100 per psychologist. So we're getting on the lower end. We were at 1,400 last year, so.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, how's it working with the ones that we've started with? Have they started already with school?
The speech and language pathologist, yes. Psychologists just started testing, so I won't know until their reports are done, which are anywhere between 30 and 60 days. But the amount of activity that's going on is really positive, and we are looking at, we had the luxury of having the previous SELPA director read our psych reports for us, which is a huge for editing, and she's not available this year, so we located the president of California school psychologist, just retired, and I knew her real well, so she's going to do some part-time work for us. And what that does is she'll read the report before the case managers get it and the parents get it, and that's going to keep us legally compliant. So I don't want to jinx us, but it's to have a set of eyes on that, someone who's been a psychologist for 40 years, and previously when we had Elaine Littleton reading, it was huge. She's doing some other roles for us too, but those are recommendations from the California Department of Education to keep our reports and everything compliant as much as I am. I'm a school teacher. I've been a school teacher I was a school teacher for 24 years. I'm not a school psychologist. I'm now a director. Someone who has a background can see things that I don't. So I do read those reports, but I'm not familiar with the DSM-5 and some of the diagnoses that we do, eligibilities.
Awesome, glad to hear.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I guess I just want to comment, I know that we've had conversations for the last several years about our desire to have a direct employee of many of these positions, but I am really heartened to hear that we're getting the kind of help we need for our students so that we can provide them the services that they need, even if we have to use an alternate process. And I appreciate your efforts along this way and identifying other resources that can help us be more efficient. So thank you for that work. Any questions or comments from members of the public?
Just last comment on that, the good thing about these contracts is we have a 30-day out, which we don't have our employees. So if we hired a school psychologist, we could maybe not rehire them next year, but we'd have them for 12 months. So if you remember last year, we had a bunch of times, and I think I came to you in January, February, and March, where we had new speech language pathologists and school psychologists because they didn't work out. That's the advantage and the disadvantage of having a contractor. I think we talked about that, right?
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions, we'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 6, approval of contract with Soylent Laser Works and 1 additional SLP and 1 psychologist.
So Soylent Laser Works is now the corporate name for someone that you guys have heard for a long time, Vocal Vision. They've been with us a long time. They've merged, so now they do school psychologists and SLPs, and the nice thing about their platform, and I think I've talked about this a few times, they're the particular company that gives us the big, like 24-inch screens with the touch screen. So we are getting 1 more school psychologist with them, and that's not the big deal, but with the speech and language pathologist, the kids love, touching the screen. So there's 2, there's the school psychologist and SLP, it's recommended that the board approve the contract with Solient, and then we will have 8 virtual SLPs and 3 that are working here, and then I think it's 5 school psychologists, so we'll be full. It's recommended yeah.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 7, approval of contract with Behavioral Intervention Specialists of LA, LLC, BISLA.
Yeah. This is one of the contracts we were talking about to this date. If we sign this contract, it's a non-public agency contract, which is a state-approved contract. We don't have a BCBA, but if they did locate one, we would use them. We had one that was unacceptable. She was here one day, and it didn't work out for us, so we don't have to keep her. That's where it says 2 RBTs. We had 2. We're probably going to get down to 1 because 1's not working out. And instructional assistants, we do not have 6. We're currently at 4, and those are things that as the district hires, we can put our district staff in there, which we want to do. However, they're keeping classes safe, and Mrs. Reyes, who was talking about helping with changing and those things, because those of us know that we have to change those students. We cannot do them with 1 person. It's 2 and sometimes 3. So having that staff besides, and we've talked for years about the behavioral, we also know the medical side of it too. So this would give us the flexibility without having employees that we have to keep. But if we get down and they could supply someone for us, they will. And a lot of times they do get more money because they're temporary. So their contracts are not as like a district contract where you're after 3 evaluations, you're permanent. These do not become permanent. So it's recommended that the board approve the contract with BISLA, our Behavior Intervention Specialist of LA.
Move recommended action.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to policy development and review. Item 1, approval of new board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits related to charter school oversight. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. In our regular course of reviewing policies, sometimes we get new policies or revisions. In this case, it was more from the practice and talking with the 2 charter schools in town. Both are up in the near future for review. And in reviewing our policies, I found that we had not yet approved them, mostly because we didn't have a need. I think it would be a good idea for us to consider approving these policies so we have them on the books. And should we get the official petitions from the charters, we will have that, and it's all ed code. This is all standard. None of this is custom to us, but using the CSBA language to guide, and you'll see it's heavily structured from ed code. So we would do it regardless of a policy, but it's really nice to be guided by one of these policies. And so we have 2 policies here. One has an administrative regulation with it. The other has what CSBA calls an exhibit. It's actually pretty similar. It's just more of a list of the ed code that guides how we process and review charters when we approve them. And then the other one is when we're authorizing them, the types of review and the oversight that we would have should we choose to do that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move recommended action.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the? Mr. Rocco.
Just a quick question. So normally when we see new policies on the agenda, we end up with we get a first reading, and then we come back a month later and actually vote on them. I don't know if that is that. I don't know if that's just the way we do things, or if that's a statutory requirement, or
It is
just
not
kind
a
of
requirement.
curious.
I think sometimes it depends on the type of policy that it is as well.
And there's no timeline on this right now, as we don't have any pending, so we can certainly bring it back for action next time. It's just more.
Yeah, then I'm fine with it. I just wanted to understand the process really more than anything, because I think this is the first time I've seen a new policy being approved at the same time on this first introduction. So, but I'm fine with it.
So we have from time to time, some are introduced as a first reading and some are introduced for approval. But I think, and I'm not sure exactly what motivates each one, but
Okay, just curious.
yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments on the policy? I would like to comment. I know we've been watching that with some of the new changes in laws and so forth, that as some of these new local charters will come before us, we will be charged with the review and approval of them. And I think it's very timely that we do review this recommended policy. I'm hoping that everyone had the opportunity to look through them, because indeed, I think it does lay out as a district what we're responsible for, the kinds of things we're responsible for, and what we should be watching for as far as effective opportunity for kids. As the authorizing board, we have specific responsibilities, and I think when it talks about in one of the documents, it refers under approval for petition. It says that a charter petition shall be granted only if the board is satisfied that doing so is consistent with sound educational practice and the interests of the community in which the school is proposing to locate. And I think that's a principle that we've got to take to heart very seriously as we review and make sure that our responsibility to provide the right kinds of educational opportunities to our kids is taken seriously. So I think this is timely. I hope everybody's had the opportunity to look through carefully at this. I think unless someone has exception, we ought to go ahead and approve it on the first go-around. But if there are people who feel like we need to hold it, I'm open to that motion. Hearing none, we'll go with the first motion that was been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public, staff? Then I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to Personnel Administration. Item 1, waiver request enabling the district to assign individuals in certificated positions without appropriate credentials. 8.1 has been moved and seconded. Dr. Moore, do we have any questions for Dr. Moore on this issue?
I just did want to clarify, since we had a change to the agenda after posting, there was an attachment that had an additional name. So it includes the list on the item as well as the attachment that is online for Holly Ann Simon. So as long as our motion includes all of those, that'd be great.
It is understood by the maker of the motion and the second that includes the addition, correct? Okay, no further questions on that clarification. Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? It is unanimous. It moves us to General Administration. Nominations for CSBA Directors at Large, African American, American Indian, and County to the California School Boards Association CSBA Board of Directors. Dr. Moore.
So this is a recommendation from CSBA. No action is required, but it's an opportunity. Should the board wish to nominate someone as a board action, we're happy to do that and fill out the forms. And you can see the 3 categories are for African American, American Indian, and county. So those are the ones that are open, and happy to take any direction.
Do any board members have nominations they'd like to place for any of these seats? Hearing none, we will move on to item 2, agreement with the City of Ridgecrest for on-site police services for the 2023-24 school year.
This is a renewal of our standard contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions on?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions or comments on this item? Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah, I think I just want to say that, you know, we've done this for a long time, and it's been a great program for both the district and for, you know, the city, the police department. I think we've, you know, built a lot of great relationships through this program over the years, and really happy to see it continue.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I would just say I agree. Thank you so much for making that comment. Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye, and I believe we have Mr. Scott abstaining from this issue, correct?
Correct.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Aye. It is unanimous of those not abstaining. Move to construction administration. Mr. Coit, report to the board, construction activities and issues.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community, I'm pleased to give this update on the status of the district's construction activities. This report is presented for informational purposes only, and no action is required. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to click ahead to a slide, and just to explain what we're doing here, Mr. Varga is here from Colombo Construction, and he's included a report in the board packet. And so what we're trying to do is include more and more information as part of the packet rather than show it up here, because I find it difficult to speak to sometimes what's on the PowerPoint. So this is the map from the packet, and I think it's easier to identify the buildings on that. And then attached also in your packet is a look ahead for the project at Richmond School. So I wasn't going to talk through every item on that. I was just going to be available if there are any questions. Mr. Varga is also here. The one thing we're finding out here, and I'm open to feedback from the board, is we have to be 2 weeks ahead of the date of the board meeting to include this as part of the packet. So we'll be giving you this update's 2 weeks old. But I think once we get rolling through the financials and the bids and everything, I believe that's probably the best way to go. I find it easier to look at than to try to, be talking to something on the screen and I'm seeing. It's difficult for me, and if everyone's comfortable with that, I think that's probably the way we'll continue.
What works well for you works for me, sir.
Okay. So are there any questions on the look ahead right now that you're seeing your packet for Richmond?
Any questions?
Yeah, just one thing that might help a lot of people, on that previous map, that school drop-off zone, what street is that on?
That's on Richmond Road.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Help us get oriented.
Yeah. Okay, so our current projects, of course, the new Richmond School, HVAC replacement and repairs, the electric bus yard, Fowler Preschool, and TK classrooms, which we have an item on the board for construction management on that one. Oops, going the wrong way. So what I wanted to do now was to kind of walk you through the last couple weeks of progress on Richmond School. So that picture was taken, I believe, on the 7th of this month, and we'll just start rolling ahead. So here we are setting the next to the last section. So that's one of the open sections being craned in on Building B, and it's being set. And this is the next section coming in, and it almost goes that fast when these guys are setting these things. I had to hurry to get over there and move around I have more action shots as on my camera, but they move pretty quick. And so we went from just on Monday, having our footing and our slab to building setting on there. It's just about down on the ground, and it fits perfectly. So that's how our modular units come in, and I thought you might find that interesting to see them fly in and land on the slab. And the welders were there. They had their welding machines there, and they started welding them down as soon as they got on the ground. So it's very interesting, and if you ever want to come out and watch the next set, if you want to watch A being flown in, I could try to let you know when that's going to happen. And a little bit more of a view stepping back. So Building B, that was on the 8th, was set. This is from today, and this is why I like to be a little bit last minute on my PowerPoint presentations because you can see so much changes in 2 weeks' time. So that's what Building B looks like on the exterior today. It's wrapped and getting ready for stucco. Another, just looking from the other side, showing some of the windows and the doors. Moving up to the roof, we're all concerned about the weather. 90% of the roof looks like that. 10% of the roof looks like this, and will probably look that way through the rainstorm if we get one. Although it's going to be tacked down a lot better than that. That's ongoing today. You can see to the left-hand side it's not covered yet. So tomorrow's going to be a day spent in preparation for the possible rain and wind events that we have. So I feel good about most of the roof, but we've got a little bit that's loose there, and we're going to be working tomorrow to make sure that we're as ready as we can be for an event like that. So this was, I went up to Lodi on the 11th, and it's hard to read some of these. I think this might be a kitchen section, but this is all Building A, and I'll just roll through these slides. Building A is ready to, as soon as we're ready, Building A is ready to come down here, so it will quickly set once we get our footings and slabs poured. They're just about ready to go with that one, just kind of roll through some of these slides. It's interesting to see how they put the buildings together. This is some of the roof sections, because part of Building A will be a combination of the modular pieces you see in panelized construction that are for the portion of the building that's too tall to go on the trailer as one piece. So that was pretty much it for Richmond. This is a view of the Los Flores Library roof. We're at 99% on this project. The HVAC is complete and the roofing is just ready to be punched. So we have some punch work and inspections, and we're complete with that project.
I really like the way you blow the clouds out of that air conditioner like that. That's very effective.
I was going to say, I was at Los Flores last night, and quite a difference in the cafeteria and in the classrooms. It was really nice.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that. I made it a little bit tough on our principal for the first couple of days last week with a fire alarm one day and an odor the next day, but I think we're through all that.
I think she's happy with you now.
Okay. And here's where we're at this afternoon with the playground, preschool playground at Fowler. Obviously, we'd hoped to be a little further along, but that's quite a bit of progress from where we were. So a couple more weeks and we should be wrapped up on that, I think. So we've got the shade structure up. They turned out to be missing a couple components for the play equipment. And of course, we have rubberized surface and some more to go down, but starting to look like a playground now. And any questions on?
Any questions of Mr. Coit on the report? Thank you so much.
I'm going to shift to glasses now in case I have to.
Well, then I will read the top header, and that'll give you a chance to switch to glasses.
All right.
Approval of an agreement with IBI Group for services in support of notice of non-applicability for the Richmond Elementary School Replacement Project. Mr. Coit.
So I think the easiest way to speak to this is what's a SWEP and what's a NONA. So, and our SWEP is a storm water pollution prevention plan. And in working with China Lake Environmental for this project, we found that China Lake is exempt on their SWEP. Even though they comply with all the regulations, the reporting portion is exempt. And we had started down the road of the SWEP reporting, which is very expensive to do. You have to have a consultant that does that constantly. So we checked with China Lake. They said, no, we're exempt. We said, well, just in case, let's talk to Lahontan Water District. They said, yes, because your area, you don't discharge into U.S. waters, you're exempt, but you need a NONA. So, notice of non-applicability. So This is what we're asking for now, and of course, you have to have a civil engineer develop the NONA. So it is recommended that the board approve agreement with IBI Group for services in support of a notice of non-applicability for the Richmond Elementary School replacement project as presented.
A motion and a second. Any questions on the SWIP and the NONA?
That's an
Board
expensive note.
Any questions or comments from the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings to item 3, approval of an agreement with the California Broadband Cooperative for Internet Services for the Richmond Elementary School Replacement Project. Mr. Coit.
Okay, so this item is to provide our broadband service to the school. We've done business with, this company for several years and several projects. And of course, they're the only provider for that. It's part of their agreement. And actually, as costs go for construction, that seems to be pretty reasonable. $83,359.70. So it is recommended that the board approve an agreement with the California Broadband Cooperative for internet service for the Richmond Elementary School project as presented.
Move to recommend action.
Been moved and second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. It brings us to item 4, approval of an agreement with Colombo Construction Company Incorporated for construction management services for 2 relocatable classrooms needed to support universal transitional kindergarten requirements. Mr. Coit, once more.
So the district does have a contract with Colombo Construction for management of small projects, and they've given us a proposal to manage our 2 additional TK classrooms. So part of this, Mr. Varga also put together a budget for the project, so that's some of the supporting articles. The cost for management is $131,184, anticipated $100,000 in reimbursables, for a cost of $231,184 for the management of this project. And it is recommended that the board approve an agreement with Colombo Construction Company for the construction management services for 2 relocatable classrooms needed to support the universal TK requirements as presented.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rockwell.
So are these the 2 relocatables that we were planning to have in place for the beginning of this current school year?
Yes.
And so based on this, when do we anticipate having those operational?
We would like to do most of the site work over the 3-week break this winter, if we can get all our contracts in line. So with this, Colombo will start putting out the bid packages for that work. We were trying to get some numbers pulled together quickly over the summer, and just the availability of labor was driving the cost up so high that we pulled back on that. So I believe the modular units are just about ready to go. We have the contract for the modular units already, but with this is getting the site work pulled together, and that's, I hate to make any promises with the weather and everything that we have, because 3 weeks is a very short window of time, but it'd be nice to get a lot of that site work done when the students are on campus and take advantage of that time rather than competing with the available labor over the summer. So that's our goal, is to get a good start on it over the winter break.
And since we anticipated having these classrooms available at the beginning of the school year, are we heavily loaded in our TK classes?
There's probably people out there that can speak to that.
Yeah,
just yes, I think the answer.
We had made arrangements in advance to make sure that it was feasible, but yes, we are full. But we are
Some relief would be good.
manageable.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. And there's nothing we can do to crack the whip on Lewis a little harder to get this a little quicker? Is that? No? No, okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to business administration, approval of upgrade fire alarm system for Richmond Elementary School at the VWIG campus. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. So just a little backstory on the fire alarm system at the VWIG campus. In the 2019, when we had the earthquakes, we had to quickly move all of the students from the Richmond campus on base to the VWIG campus. And at the time, we left the existing older radionics fire alarm panel in place, and then we added a newer, more modern silent night fire alarm panel to accommodate the additional portables that we brought in and some of the other spaces. So we kind of knew at the time that eventually the day would come when the radionics panel would have to be removed, and we switch everything over fully to the silent night fire alarm panel. And so that's where we are. We're in a position now where we need to get that old radionics equipment out of there and bring in some new devices and hook them up to the silent night panel. So working with our fire alarm vendor, A.J. Kirkwig & Associates, it is recommended that the board approve the agreement with A.J. Kirkwig & Associates in the amount of $32,246 as presented to get that fire alarm system up and running.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 2, approval of contract with High Rock Security at Richmond Elementary School, VWIG campus, for fire watch services.
Yes, thank you. So as a result of the inoperable radionics panel at Richmond, we were mandated by the Kern County Fire Marshal's office to provide 24/7 fire watch by a state licensed security firm. And so we contacted High Rock Security, and they were able to quickly deploy 4 security personnel out to Ridgecrest to help with that service. Fortunately, we were able to work with AJK last week to get kind of a temporary fix in place, so we didn't have to keep them the whole time. And so this is, we were able to release, we got released by the Fire Marshal's office from Firewatch on Friday of last week. So this is the item being brought to you to approve the contract with High Rock Security for the services they provided for Firewatch.
Move the recommended action.
Did I hear a second as well? Second. Okay, second. Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, members of the board? Questions or comments, members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Brings us to item 12, where we will temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to conduct the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. The only item on the agenda, unless there are changes, is the approval of the minutes. So there are no changes. So if there are no challenges to the minutes, we will accept them as presented. And we will adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority meeting and reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education and move to the consent calendar. The entire consent calendar has been moved. Do I have a second? Second. Been moved and seconded, and just for a procedural understanding, we do typically move the consent calendar as a whole. The board does have the ability to pull any specific item if they wish to discuss. And the review of any of these items, and all of these items have been done by board members prior to the meeting, so they are familiar. If they have questions, then they can have it pulled from the agenda and discussed at that time. So that just kind of clarifying the way that works in general. So have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on any of those? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 14, future agenda items. Do we have any recommendations for future agenda items? While you're thinking about that, I just want to make a comment, Dr. Moore. After working through today's meeting, and I apologize to, I was supposed, Mr. Ciani asked me to tell everybody be sure and speak into their microphone, so now the meeting is over, I want to remind everybody to be sure and speak in their microphones. How am I doing, John? Sorry about that, John. Anyway, I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate the way we've kind of created a new approach to doing a synopsis of each item as we discuss. I know the board spends the time reading all of the headers ahead of time, and we don't necessarily need all those read to us again at the meeting here, but what was done this evening to kind of give a general understanding and a lay interpretation for the people who are watching about what's going on, I think is effective. It allows our meeting to move more quickly, and in some ways actually generates a better discussion. So I thank you for that recommendation, that change. I think it was one of those situations where sometimes, you do things the same way you do them because you've always done them that way, and sometimes a fresh set of eyes kind of jars us a little bit to do something differently. So I for one, appreciate that. Anybody come up with any future agenda items they feel necessary to request? If not, we will move to adjournment. Thank you very much. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be September 21st. Thank you all for attending. It's nice to see everybody.